Thank you to Opinion Outpost for sponsoring this video.
Bob, I need more money for Smash DLC. I spent all mine coming to see you.
Just do one of those ads that you keep pushing off.
No, that sounds stupid. Give me a better idea than that. Do you even care about my needs?
Wait, but we're literally here right
I have
now.
a better idea. How about I just use Opinion Outpost to get paid for my opinions? And boy, oh boy, do I have opinions.
That's right, me. It's as simple as taking surveys from well-known brands you already use to earn points that can be redeemed for gift cards for popular retailers like Amazon, which just so happens to sell Nintendo Switch eShop codes. It's perfect, just in time to get your hands on the second Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Fighters Pass. Be sure to head down to the link in the description to start earning your free eShop money and supporting the content we make here on fanatixfour in the process. The first batch of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate DLC fighters are finally here to use, and more importantly for our purposes,
AJ was in my video, that means he's roping me into his video.
Judge harshly in a YouTube video based on two separate criteria that account for the dichotomy of the Smash audience. We're gonna have one ranking for how good characters are on a competitive level, as I'm sure most would expect from us, but also we'll have a separate ranking based on how fun we think they are to play. And let me tell you, those two things aren't mutually exclusive. There will most likely be several deviants that perfectly fit one criteria but are horrible when judged by the other, so this should be interesting. With that part of the explanation out of the way, we'll be going through each character in order of their release, where we'll reveal our opinion on where they should rank in each category. This way, we're not rehashing specific characters, assuming me and Bob would place certain characters differently on the rankings. So let's get started. The OG Super Smash Bros. Ultimate DLC character was Super Mario's very own Piranha Plant.
Piranha Plant was such a good pick for this game. It was completely out of left field. Nobody expected a Mario character, and of all of the Mario characters that you could pick, Piranha Plant, and he moves in such a funny and dumb way. If this leaked before the announcement, no one would believe it.
In my mind, Piranha Plant sits in a weird place as far as their uniqueness within the Smash Ultimate roster goes. On one hand, they're one of the few new characters without a defined gimmick, like Banjo's 5 Wonder Wings, or Hero's Spell Menu, or Joker's Arsene. I think in terms of the DLC, Piranha Plant is much more straightforward of a character with less of a skill ceiling. I think it has a few crazy strong moves in the form of Patooey and Long Stern Strike, because those are its only moves that can blow you up quickly if you don't know you need to be looking out for them and what to do when they happen. But once you get past those moves, Piranha Plant is super predictable, and if you get them off stage, you can mostly do whatever you want with them if you play patient. Essentially, I'd put Piranha Plant in the same category as fighters like King K. Rool. Plant can potentially get some good kills off of good players when their guard's down, but once the gimmicks are figured out, there's no real chance for Piranha Plant to take any W's off of really good players. It's for that reason that as far as potential competitive play goes, I'd have to put Piranha Plant at number 5 out of the 6 that we have so far.
In terms of competitive thoughts, I hate him so much. He's very gimmicky and really hard to get around. Once he gets that Patooey up over his head, that's it. It's like a safety net. You can't really hit him without it falling on you. I'm sure better players than me have no problem getting around his gimmicks. It's just not a fun character to play against. I think he's competitively viable, maybe not the best character to use, but I think you could do some cool stuff with his toolset. He definitely has one of the best recoveries in the game.
As far as how fun Plant is to play, for me it largely depends on who it is I'm playing against, but I can't see myself wanting to use this player for regular matches outside of testing for this video. I think the gimmicks can be fun if you're almost playing like a mini game of sorts and limiting yourself to v Plant Patooey only or something like that. Also, I'd imagine Plant can have a field day in free-for-all, so there's always that. I'd hate to do this because it's the most boring rank possible for this character here, but Plant for me is number 5 out of 6 in terms of fun as well. I think Piranha Plant is too much of the worst case scenario for heavies, so you don't get much of the brawn over brains aspect that you can with some other heavies in this game. You have to think more than most heavies typically need to, and that's only worth doing when you're fighting someone that struggles with getting in. Although, to be fair, the fun of a character entirely depends on what playstyle you enjoy the most, rather than their tools, unlike competitive play, so I'm sure there will be a lot of differing opinions on this part of the ranking. If you disagree with where Plant lands on my list, that's fine. Just let everybody else know your opinion in the comments.
Fun factor to play as? No, I don't want to touch him because I hate him so much. I'm happy he's in the game. I'm not happy with his moves and how I have to work around them. It's me. I'm the problem.
Spoilers, Joker is the best DLC character, full stop, and for anyone that follows Smash Ultimate's competitive scene to any degree since Joker's release, you might even say he's the best character in the game altogether. I don't know if I'd go that far personally, but he's definitely up there. In regards to just limiting it to DLC characters, he's the quickest, most agile, has a ton of kill potential and setups for easy kills, and he can even get early kills with down guns if you're good enough, despite the nerf. And that's before even mentioning Arsene, which essentially makes all of Joker's attacks multi-hits with double the kill potential, if not more than that. Arsene isn't perfect, as with the 7.0 patch. As long as you can get some decent combos in, the Rebellion gauge will run out pretty quickly. But if you're playing a good Joker, that's way easier said than done. So yeah, Joker is the #1 DLC character competitively out of the 6.
Joker is probably the best DLC character, part of which is because a lot of people actually wanted somebody from the Persona series. Arsene is a little overpowered, but in the last patch he got a lot of nerfs, so kind of makes up for it. Joker is just so fast and he can combo so well, and half the time he's super powerful because he has Arsene, so I think he's super competitively viable, especially, I mean, you don't need any proof. The best Smash player in the world won all these tournaments with him. He's definitely a good character. Now, did he win all of those tournaments because he was playing Joker? Definitely not. He could have done that with other characters. I don't think Joker's the best character in the game, but I think he's definitely up there.
As far as fun goes, for me, I'd say Joker is close to the middle of the pack. His playstyle is relatively straightforward, and while starting crazy combo strings is always a fun time for me as a Squirtle player, I think Joker lacks that wacky mechanic that leads to those memorable "did you see that" moments that I think the characters higher on the fun ranking have. Arsene is a good attempt at something like this, but I think Arsene takes more skill than a lot of the other explosive mechanics that the other characters on this list do have. You can legitimately autopilot and take multiple people out with other mechanics on this list. Arsene takes a bit more precision, so I think that hurts his placement here, in my opinion.
He is very fun to play as. Getting Arsene feels really nice. Nailing a forward smash feels really nice. Nailing one of those counters feels really nice. But I never played as him at all outside of when he was released.
Hero is easily the most controversial character to happen to the Smash Ultimate competitive scene to date, and that's because RNG heavily factors into his kit. On one end, he has a 1 out of 8 chance of landing critical hits for his normal attacks, and on the other end, his down special command selection pulls out a menu of a litany of additional attacks and/or buffs that randomly cycle, multiple of which have a chance to one-hit KO opponents. And that's not even the only thing Hero has going for him. Hero's other specials and normal attacks are all pretty powerful and can be really dangerous if spaced correctly. Hell, Wi-Fi heroes are liable to just spam dash attack against you, and if you're not careful, it will kill you. That being said, Hero is certainly not the best or even close to it, honestly, with all things considered. Their movement is relatively slow and they're pretty tall, so they're pretty easy to counterattack and then combo if they make the wrong calls at the wrong time. Also, there's always the chance that your opponent will be bad at managing their MP, and since the recovery largely depends on that MP gauge at least having some juice, they can be relatively easy to edgeguard and/or ledge trap. My competitive ranking for Hero is 3 out of 6. They have good enough tools to get by regardless of RNG, and their potential skyrockets the luckier you are. So I think number 3 is a good averaging of what's possible in all those scenarios.
Hero sucks. I'm happy we got a Dragon Quest character in the game, but not like this. So much of his moveset relies so heavily on randomness that he's not only a bad choice to use in competitive play, he's just bad overall for the whole competitive scene. And I know that there's other characters that have RNG involved in their moveset, like Peach can pull a bomb out of her skirt. Her skirt is what I was gonna say. Game & Watch can pull a 9 out of his ass. But when you have a chance of killing a character at 0 with 1 hit, you gotta leave. You gotta get out of the game. The only good thing about Hero being in the game is that he's really easy to fight against. He's very easy to fight against. Just overwhelm them before they can get the menu out. and you should be alright.
As far as fun goes, I think Hero is the second most fun DLC fighter in the game because the RNG introduces a lot of those moments I mentioned earlier that you and a group of friends will talk and laugh about for some time now in casual sessions. Getting thwacked at zero is an easy example. Using Kamikaze by mistake and throwing the game away. I could go on and on. This character introduces the opportunity for wild off-the-wall moments very few characters can replicate. The only thing that stops me from saying this character is the most fun in this game is that some of these mechanics could make the game very unfun depending on the set of circumstances and the people you're playing with, of course.
In terms of playing as him, no. I would never play as him. That guy. He might be fun to play as if you both stand very still and play Smash Bros. As if it's a turn-based game and only use the menus. That'd be a fun little mini game, but in Smash, no. Play anybody else.
Banjo and Kazooie is easily my favorite character addition out of the first batch of DLC, and the only one I requested by name in past videos. Now that they're in the game though, I honestly don't use them very often. This isn't because I don't think they're good or anything. I think out of the first batch of DLC, they're 4th place, which is pretty decent. It's more about how gimmicky they feel to play. That said, they have a very good punish game with Wonder Wing. Their down throw kill confirms, awesome projectiles, they're powerful forward air. They're at a decent weight, their movement is pretty good. I'd say their only major flaw is that one of their best tools, Wonder Wing, can be super predictable and punished hard when shielded. They're relatively easy to combo, especially once Wonder Wing runs out, and that becomes doubly true off stage. For me, Banjo ends up being a counter pick when I want to work less for my kills, and I think as far as where he falls for most people competitively, there's no real notable Banjo performances outside of the first few weeks of his release. Although, that's a bit of a caveat because performance doesn't really say anything when it comes to character strength in the long run.
Banjo might be my favorite addition. I'm really happy that we got a rare character, somebody again completely out of left field. I also think he's a really good character despite a lot of people's initial impressions of him. I don't really see him being used at all in competitive play aside from when he first came out. I rarely see him in tournaments now, but I think there's plenty of room for a really good Banjo main. It just needs a lot of labbing. And he's also really fun to play as. His movement is a little similar to Captain Falcon. That's all it takes for me. Wonder Wing is fantastic, and it being limited to only 5 times per stock is great because that move is a little bit overpowered. But here's another character that I haven't touched since they were released.
As far as fun goes, I'd say Banjo is my #1 out of the DLC. Getting his kill confirms can be hilarious on both ends because it doesn't feel as bad as getting randomly one-shotted by Hero on the receiving end, and on the attacking end, his moves just feel so satisfying when they connect. His moves work well against groups, he feels pretty good to control, his grab combos, particularly down throw, can lead to fun moments, especially if you have a good understanding of your friend's habits when it comes to mashing. Getting early kills with the projectile is also a great time. Basically, I think Banjo just has a wacky moveset that can lead to hilarious moments, and that's what fun Smash is largely about for me, outside of a competitive setting, at least.
Terry Bogard is also a great addition. I never played any of the what the fuck game was he in? Fatal Fury series at all. I've never even heard of Terry Bogard before in my life. But it's cool to see more staples of the fighting game world brought into Smash Ultimate.
Terry is probably the character I care the least about in the first batch of DLC, possibly the roster as a whole, to be honest. And that's because I'm not a huge traditional fighting game fan, so his reveal was kind of meh for me. But I think he is in the upper half of the DLC fighters. Specifically, I think he's the second best DLC fighter on a competitive level. He hits hard, has awesome combos with kill confirms into his super specials that become available at 100% or higher. Some negatives though, I think he has a relatively predictable recovery and he can be combo food, but he can also bulldoze through a lot of stuff with his attacks, and he's heavy so he can live pretty long after he gets in the go range. So if your DI game is strong enough and you have your inputs down, you'll probably be racking up a ton of damage and kills with this character.
Competitively, I think he could work really well too. I think he has a lot in his toolkit that could defend against the whole roster. He's got pseudo projectile moves. He's got an okay recovery. I think we're definitely going to keep seeing Terry Bogarts in tournaments. Just, I don't know, they're going to be top level anytime soon.
As far as fun goes, I'll be honest and say I am not at all qualified enough to fairly place Terry because I can't be bothered to learn the inputs, so his kit is more of an annoyance than anything for me. So on a purely subjective level, I don't think Terry is very fun. I think he feels bad to play against for me personally due to a lot of his attacks effortlessly hitting through PT stuff, and his ability to combo into his super special seems unfair and frustrating IMO. But again, this part of our ranking is very subjective, mileage may vary.
He is really fun to play. He plays very differently than all of the other characters in the game. If maybe you're not that good at comboing and you want a character to start with to do simple combos, Terry Bogard is a great place to start. It's really easy to nail super simple combos with him. And I like the fact that he's always facing the opponent, but it doesn't work right half the time. Some moves whiff very frequently because it assumes you're facing the other direction. And I had a really fun time playing as him, and I could have seen myself continuing to play as him. But the whole fact that the game just decides that you're facing the other way when you're trying to recover onto the stage, that just kind of ruined the whole experience for me.
Full transparency, I think Byleth is by far the worst DLC character, potentially including Smash 4. I'll acknowledge that it's still early and my opinion may change, but I still say that I don't see that actually happening, at least very much. I think being tall and slow in Smash Bros. Ultimate is a death sentence no matter how good Byleth's range may be. As long as your character can weave in and out of their range in between Byleth's swings, you will completely run them over. I can see top players making this character look really good, but that's bait, don't fall for it. Ultimate as a whole has very few, if any, characters that are completely worthless, so you can get results with anyone if you're good enough. But that's not the same as a character being particularly good relative to the rest of the cast.
Byleth is not great. We definitely didn't need another Fire Emblem character. I'm not mad that there's another Fire Emblem character. I think they just should have released Byleth in the middle of the DLC announcements. I'm just saying Byleth was a bad one to end on. But also, they're just not that good of a character.
Plot twist, or I guess really it's not a plot twist since this is the last character, but yeah, I actually think Byleth is really fun. I'd rank Byleth number 3 out of the 6 when it comes to where they fall in the fun ranking. Breaking shields is always a hype moment, and since Byleth has like 4 moves that break shields, that'll likely happen a lot in casual matches. Byleth is very risk-reward oriented with an emphasis on the risk part. I think that's a terrible formula for competitive play, but a perfect one for fun, because whether it backfires or not, chances are something funny will come of it.
Byleth is really fun to play, and there's a lot of really cool moves there. Almost everything can break a shield, which is super fun to do if you can do it. The problem is, it's hard to do, because they're slow as hell. You need to really leverage the parts of Byleth's moveset that come out fast, like its tilts, and that's just not something that I do. Right now, it kind of feels like fighting a Ganon. It's a really slow character with really powerful moves, and it's really easy to get around, and it's just combo food. But I think eventually we're gonna see people figure out Byleth's moveset and how to make it competitively viable. I think right now Byleth isn't a good character, but eventually we're gonna start seeing people doing really cool stuff with Byleth, and we're gonna learn a lot more about how we can use the character in a competitive environment. I think there's a lot of room to grow with Byleth, but right now it's pick somebody else. All right, I'm gonna leave now. Sorry I wasn't in focus for the whole first half.
But those are our thoughts on the Smash Bros. Ultimate DLC we have so far. Which characters do you think are the best in the roster? Which are the most fun in your opinion? And feel free to rank them like we did. Maybe even let us know who you main, even if it's not any of the DLC. Thank you again to Opinion Outpost for being the first official sponsor for a fanatixfour video, and thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to click the like button and share it with a friend that you think will also enjoy it. Finally, if you haven't already, subscribe here and ring the bell for more videos like this every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, that's it for me. See you next week.